Good day, everyone. My name is Christel Roiles from BSED 1CD. Today, I'm going to discuss and report the challenges going forward of the economic geography. Economic geography look at where economic activities occur and how they vary location and interact between places. Over the years, economic geography has taken various approaches to different subject matters such as the location of the industries, the benefit forms obtained by locating near each other. First is the objectives. Students will be able to identify the two challenges that economic geography has. There are two key challenges exist for future research on economic geography. First is measuring patterns of economic geography, and the second is sorting out causal complexity. First is measuring economic geography. Although an even distribution of economic activity is obvious to even a casual observer, measuring economic geography is difficult. Information is needed about where individuals live, where they work, and what industry or sectors employs them, and all of this information must available for small subnational geographic units or such as local labor markets. It is unsurprising that few measures of economic geography exist. Like the handful of measures that do exist are generally not comparable across countries and fall short of capturing the key theoretical concept of interest. Next is the trade statistics are sometimes used to approximate patterns of geographic specialization. Early studies used exports as a proxy for production, according to Brohat 1998. And more recent studies use imports together with employment data to estimate the geographic distribution of trade shocks by author et al. 2013. And to directly measure economic geography, disaggregated employment data are needed. Using employment data, according to Grugman 1991, and calculated Gini indices to measure the geographic concentration of an industry, regional and national employment shares. Improvement on Gini indices gradually emerged. One improvement was the dartboard approach by Ellison and Glaser 1997. Now we control for variation in the size distribution of plants sa industry and size of geographic areas. However, this approach cannot distinguish between industries and concentration in contiguous areas and those concentrated in select parts of the country far apart from one another. This To illustrate this problem, consider two industries in France: audiovisual services and motion picture equipment. And the motion picture equipment this industry is concentrated in two locations at opposite ends of France. To Auton is based in Grenoble and Transvideo is based in Normandy, according to Dale 2015. In contrast, the audiovisual services industry is concentrated entirely and around the Paris to the France region, according to Dale 2015. The dartboard approach would classify both industries as being similarly concentrated geophysically, even though the audiovisual service industry is far more topographically concentrated. Cognizant of this problem, Bosch and Reinhardt 2000 suggest an alternative measure that calculates geographic concentration by measuring the distance between each employee and the national or centroid or midpoint for a given industry. And while this strategy overcomes the previously discussed problem inherent in the dartboard approach, it requires identifying the center of a given industry, which is challenging and necessarily unhelpful. And calculating this variable requires a vast amount of data, and as a result, it exists for two countries, the United States and the United Kingdom. As our entropy indices have been used to measure geographic concentration according to Brollhart and Traeger 2005 and Ricard 2011-2018. These indices have several distinct advantages over earlier measures. The first key advantage is their suitability for decomposition analysis. Ang entropy indices can be decomposed to estimate the geographic concentration of individual sectors within countries and to do so in a cross-nationally comparable manner. Although the EU data can be used to calculate entropy indices, a further challenge remains. Calculating entropy indices using different aggregation of the same data such as the employment at different NUTS and UTS level can produce different outcomes according to Wong 2009. That's why economic geographers refer to this as the modifiable areal unit problem. According to Lee and Roger 2019 proposed a measure that overcomes the modifiable areal unit problem by taking into account fluctuation in the scale and number of political units considered. Although the EU data are invaluable serious, measurement challenges remain outside of Europe, and data challenges are particularly acute in many developing countries. As a result, virtually no research systematically tests the consequences of economic geography in developing countries. For example, in China, economic growth in the coastal region outpaces much of the rest of the country. The southern coastal region accounts for nearly 35% of national GDP or the gross domestic product and attract a disproportionate amount of foreign investment. So that's why 87.5% of foreign direct investment in China went to the southern coastal region in 2017 according to Economist 2019. At the same time, industrial activity contracted in the west and interior of the country. That's why according to Economist 2019, this pattern points to large and growing geographic inequalities in China, one of the world's largest economies. That's why enormous urban agglomeration exists in much of in the developing world. Such large geographic inequalities generate difficulties for the formation and functioning of political institutions. They set the stage of regional conflict over trade and taxes, according to Beramendi and Roger 2018, and may discourage foreign direct investment, according to Simons et al. 2016. Measuring economic geography and testing its effects in developing countries are therefore important and pressing objectives. Like remote sensing provides a potentially promising way to measure economic geography in developing countries. In fact, some analysts have already used remote sensing data to estimate the geographic distribution of economic activity, according to Blakely and Lin 2012. Ang remote sensing data are collected using aircraft or spacecrafts and have become publicly accessible at increasing resolution. According to Donaldson and Storygard 2016, an advantage of remotely sensed data is their wide geographic coverage. And despite these challenges, the rapid growth of remote sensing data and other geocoded data make it easier to measure economic geographically. Geocoded census results are increasingly available to academics, and these data can be used to estimate the geographic distribution of workers with particular skills, occupation, and or employers. The GIS allows for the collection analysis of data is an explicit spatial fashion, according to Chase 2015 and Branch 2016. GIS technologies have been productively employed in groundbreaking studies of representative institutions, according to Savage 2010 and Farin 8 of Finley et al. 2011. As a researcher capitalizes on better data and technologies to measure economic geography, new challenges will emerge. One such challenges is casual complexity. The first generation of political studies of economic geography took patterns of economic geography as given. Because this because pattern of economic geography remain relatively stable in the short to medium term, this assumption may be relatively in no cause, according to Dynamics et al. 2002. But in the long run, pattern of economic geography may be influenced by government policy and or political institution. This possibility raises concern about causal complexity. The next generation of these studies must therefore grapple with a fundamental question. That is what explains the uneven distribution of economic activities across space. A large literature in economics explores this question, according to Marshall 1920 and Krugman 1991. These studies generally conclude that non-political factors explain much of the geographic variation in economic activity. Patterns of geographic concentration can occur naturally through market mechanism alone, according to Campus 2012, Maloney and Niger 2017. Factors that stimulate natural cluster include the ability of raw materials, suitable climate conditions, proximity to markets, and an educated workforce or research and development facilities, according to Maloney and Niger 2017. And geographic concentration can also be achieved by the strategic action of large players, such as the university or multinational company, or private groups like Export Business Association and credits, cooperatives, and industry association, according to Maloney and Nagar 2017. Technology and automation can also generate geographic concentration, according to Sconfield 2018. Producers may also cluster together to learn about new technologies, market evolution, or new forms of organization, according to Krugman 1991. Additional benefits of concentration include lower transportation costs and intellectual spillovers, according to Domes et al. 2002. The geographic concentration of manufacturing employment is similar, on average, in plurality and PR system, according to Ricard 2018. Among developed countries, those with PR electoral system exhibit both the highest, Sweden, and the lowest, Denmark, levels of manufacturing sector of geographic concentration, according to Pizzini and Warren 2007. And the highest observed values of geographic concentration occur in countries like Sweden and Australia, two countries with very different electoral systems, according to Pizzini and Bryan 2000. These observations suggest that producer locations do not vary systematically with a country's political institution. However, a country's political institution might arise in response to economic geography, according to Ruden 2010, when countries rely heavily on foreign trade because of their size. For example, constitutional authors might purposefully choose electoral institutions that minimize the political clout of groups seeking trade protection, according to Rogoski 1987. And constitutional authors' decision about electoral institution may also be influenced by the geographic distribution of citizens with shared economic interests, according to Bradley and Moe 1992 and Ruden 2010. And historically, socialist parties in Europe advocated for proportional electoral rules because their supporters tended to be geographically concentrated in manufacturing and mining areas, according to Ruden 2010. Given the geographic distribution of socialist voters, socialist parties expected to do better under PR than plurality electoral rules and consequently lobbied for the adoption of PR. In the United States, historical evidence suggests that the initial choice of apportionment in state legislature was function of economic geography, according to Beramendi and Jensen 2018. Exploring how economic geography impact institutional design is an important topic for future research. However, firms' location decisions appear largely unresponsive to government subsidies, according to Middle Part Clubic Oberman 2002 and Jensen 2018. In the United States, the biotechnology industry is concentrated in 5 urban centers. This high level of geographic concentration persists despite the fact that 41 of 50 U.S. states have significant funding programs designed to support development of the life sciences industry, according to Pizzini and Bryan 2007. In the United Kingdom, 100,000 increase in the expected government subsidies associated with only 1% increase in the probability of relocation. According to Diverac et al. 2007, in the U.S. state of Texas, 85% of the firms that received subsidies indicated that the money had absolutely no impact on their location decision. In Norway, civil servants responsible for the allocation of subsidies report that they have never seen a firm relocate in order to win more subsidies, according to Ricard 2018. Norwegian bureaucrats acknowledged that it was more difficult for a firm in Oslo to win subsidies because of the higher concentration of firms in the district. However, no firm moved out of Oslo in order to increase its chances of winning subsidies from government, according to Ricard 2018. In this taken together, this evidence suggests that government-funded subsidies do not significantly influence most firm location decisions. Future work is needed to explore how other types of government policies, such as tariffs, may influence pattern of economic geography, according to Scanfeld 2018. And despite these non-trivial challenges, research on economic geography has made a great strides in recent years. Even greater advantages lie ahead, particularly when scholars work together across disciplinary and subdisciplinary divides. That is the summary points. Number 1 is that ignoring the geographic dispersion of voters with shared economic interests would be innocuous if politicians elected via different rules were even equally responsive to concentrated or diffuse interests, but this is not a case different. Electoral system generate varied incentives to represent geographically concentrated or geophysical diffuse groups. Second is similar patterns of economic geography can produce different policy outcomes depending on country's electoral institution. And the last is identical electoral institution can produce different policy outcomes depending on a country's economic geography. That's all. Thank you.
Kepada yang kalau tu balik yang palangay ang ulo sa despa bang ipasakay tang ulo. Di ubah na daw ang buhay rin yang.
Kung kita dito?
Ibong nag-agi. Kada ta si mana magpait og kuan.